Hello, everyone. Welcome for our next session on arithmetic, percentages, and ratios. So, we're starting with the CAT 2026 series, and we'll start with arithmetic because, well, arithmetic does happen to capture, you can say, a majority of the questions. Let's say anywhere between out of the 22 questions or so, you can expect anywhere around 7 to 9 questions on an average, right? So therefore it is therefore definitely something that first of all, it's a group of topics with which most of us are quite comfortable with, is in the sense that this is, well, your regular topics which everybody has done, right? Like today we are starting with percentages and ratios, and we would continue further with the subsequent topics like profit and loss, averages, mixtures, simple and compound interest, time and distance, time and work. So these are the topics with which we are quite, at least on a basic level, we are aware of. But at the same time, the thing to capture is the specific techniques, you can say, or problem solving approach, basically, that is very unique, you can say, for this exam. Or you can say the questions, the way the questions are asked in that same topic, right, the way we have done them in our earlier school life, right, and the way they are asked here is a bit different. So therefore we have to learn how to tackle or handle that specific grill of questions, right? So with that intention, to understand those techniques and to be aware of the kind of questions that we should expect, right, that is why we are meeting, and that is what we would like to capture with you. So the idea is that you uh, try to practice along with me, right? Don't just take it up just okay. So don't just observe the questions, also pause the video and solve on your own, right? And if you're in live session, do the same, right? Solve with me and try to get the answer and share with me. And secondly, in the live session, the whole idea is that you're connected, so you can ask your queries and doubts as we are going along, right? So please feel free to type in your queries, and I can respond to the same, right? Okay, so therefore I think we are ready to start with the first session of arithmetic, percentages, and ratios for the CAT 2026 series. Right, let's go. Let's start with this. Okay, now, so remember, we'll be having two sessions on this same group of topics. Today, I have brought a bit of basic to medium level questions. In the next class on the same topic, I'll be bringing a little bit next level questions. Right. So building the base in this session, and then taking it a notch higher in the next one, and seeing its further application. That will be the idea. Right. So, a number is increased by 20%, then decreased by 25%, then increased by 25%. What is the net percentage change? Typically, when asked for students to do this question, most of them start with 100, take the value and start with it, right? Now that is the normal way anybody can get to the answer, but I'll just give the alternate approach, or you can say the approach that we'll be using in our problem solving quite many times. The idea is, this is a question, the basic question on successive percentage change. So the basic concept is multiply all the multipliers. That is the basic tenet of percentage change in succession. Multiply all the multipliers. What is multipliers? Multipliers is, if there's a p% change, then the multiplier is 1 plus or minus of p100, plus if it's an increase, minus if it's a decrease. So that represents the overall multiplier and the overall percentage change. So what I'm trying to say, now I'll be quick with this. Okay, so to be quick with this, you have to know percentage to fraction conversions. For example, First, an increase of 20% coming your way, right? First, a 20% increase, then a decrease of 20%, 25%. So minus 25, and then an increase of 25 plus 25. So multiply all the multipliers means 20% is 1 by 5, 1 plus 1 by 5, 6 by 5 is the multiplier over here. So multiplier is the fraction of the percentage change. I always write in the simplest form. For that, percentage to fraction conversion should be quick. So 20% increase, multiplier is 1 plus 1 by 5, 6 by 5. 25% decrease, 25% is 1 by 4. The multiplier is 1 minus 1 by 4, 3 by 4. And multiply all the multipliers. And then again in succession, this is 25% increase. 1 plus 1 by 4, 5 by 4 is the multiplier. So this multiplication you solve, this is the overall multiplier. It represents the overall multiplication factor or the overall change. So what do you get? 5 and 5 cancels. You can cancel 2 from here. This 6 can become 3. This 4 can become 2. So 3 into 3, 9 over 4 into 2, 8. 9 over 8 represents the overall multiplier. Overall multiplier is meaning if this is a p% change, then this is 1 plus or minus p by 100. 9 by 8 is 1 plus 1 by 8. So it's a 1/8 increase. 1/8 is a 12.5% because 1 by 8 into 100 is 12.5%. Right? So therefore, that is the overall multiplication factor, right? Next one. There we go. Naval and Raval work in the same company and their salaries are initially in the ratio 3:5. Naval switches to a new industry and receives salary hikes of 20% and 25% over the next 2 years. Meanwhile, Raval remains in the same company. How you want to say it? I think Raval, but faces consecutive salary cuts of 10 and 20%. What is the ratio of their current salaries? So initial values, ratios are given. When ratios are given, you can then assume some numbers for that based on the ratio, and then you can proceed further, right? So Naval and Raval, their initial salaries are in the ratio of 3:5. Easy to assume, let's say 300 and 500, right? Multiple of 100, simplest to work with. Then do the respective percentage changes as he has given for the next 2 years, and then reach to the final values. Naval switches to the new industries and receives salary hikes for 20%, 25%. So 300 first increases per 20%, which is 1/5. So 1/5 of 300 is 60. So it becomes 360. And then it increases by 25% again, which is 1/4. Right. So I'm converting percentage to fraction and doing the corresponding change. 360, 1/4 of that is 90, 360 plus 90. So that becomes 450 finally. Now, Raval remains in the same company, faces salary cuts of 10 and 20%. So 10% simple 1/10 decrease, which is 500 minus 1/10 of that 50. So 500 becomes 500 minus 50, 450. Then 20% again. So that's again 1/5. So decrease of 1/5 on 450, which is 90. 450, 1/5 of that is 90. 450 minus 90 is 360. So 450 and 360 are their current salaries, which are in the ratio of 45 is to 36. You can cancel 9 also. 5 is to 4. So idea is that whenever some ratio is given and you have to start with it and do further working on those, you can assume any suitable values and then proceed with that, right? And I did the calculation this time in the regular method. You could have also done the multiplier effect kind of thing, right? Into 6 by 5 into 5 by 4 for Naval, and into 9 by 10 into 4 by 5 for Raval, right? That same thing that we did in the last question, वो भी कर सकते थे, but I did in the regular way, right? Just to show you that this is also how you can proceed. You can also do the multiplier effect, right? Right. So we are basically learning how to deal with successive percentage change through these questions, right? But Not every question on percentage is all about successive change. There are other things also, right? Let's see what more we have. So basically ratios and percentages दोनों को एक साथ हम डील कर रहे हैं. Whenever ratios are there, we are learning that we can assume any suitable numbers. Now, another question on primarily on ratios here we have the ratio of incomes of A and B is 6:5. The ratio of their expenditures is 1:2. If B saves 20% of his income, what is the ratio of their savings? Right. Okay, so let's see. See, the thing is that whenever you have two ratios, right? Here we have 6:5 for income, expenditure we have 1:2. Typically, what we do is we take some ratio constant, a kind of a variable, and we define the things. Like, for example, for income, see, income is expenditure plus savings, right? There are three things involved over here, and they are not independent. Income equals expenditure plus savings. Income is the sum of the expenditure and savings. So, for A and B, their incomes are given to be in the ratio of 6:5. So, if this is 6x, then this is 5x. This is how we can assume the quantities in general, right? Now you might say, okay, last time we did like 600, 500 kind of thing and we proceeded like that, right? Now that we were able to do because there was only one parameter whose ratio was given, but here we have another parameter which is expenditure. So we must take some variables and define the quantities. Now the thing I want to bring over here is that for expenditure is 1:2, right? So can I say x and 2x? So just be very careful. Whenever you have two ratios, you cannot take the same ratio constant because that ratio and this ratio is independent of each other. So if you have to assume expenditure, then you must take a different variable, let's say y, and define it as y and 2y. But wait, I have a better approach. Look at the next statement. B saves 20% of his income. So actually, if you first analyze this statement, you will not need to take the another variable y, because you can directly get the value of expenditure in terms of x only if you first solve for the savings made by B. It is given that B is saving 20% of his income. We know his income is 5x, so he's saving 1/5 of 5x, or simply he's saving x rupees, right? So if his savings is x, it means his expenditure is obviously 4x, because income is expenditure plus savings. And now, since this was in the ratio 1:2, so these two values are in the ratio 1:2. So 2 is 4x, so 1 should be 2x, so that these are in the ratio 1:2. That ratio is maintained. So therefore, we can infer that A's savings are 6x minus 2x, which is 4x. And now you can observe that the ratio of their savings, which is asked, 4x and x, has come to be what? 4:1. So what's the idea? The idea is, point number one, if there are two ratios, you need to take two ratio constants independently. But point number two, don't take two variables upfront. First, see if there is some other information which can help you to directly solve for something, and then you will not need to take the other variable, right? So the idea is always minimize your dependence on the variables, isn't it? All right, perfect. Next, right? Let's see. Okay, here we go. The ratio of incomes of A, B, and C is 6:5:4. Next year, they receive increments of 10%, 20%, and 25%. What is the ratio of the revised incomes? So, this time there is only one ratio involved. So, here we can just directly work with numbers. So, the moral of the story is, when there is only one ratio given, you can always start with just the numbers. So, for A, B, and C, let's assume their incomes to be 6:5:4. So, 600, 500, and 400. This is their initial salaries. The percentage increase that is given to them is respectively of 10%, 20, and 25%. So what is the new salaries after this percentage increase? So 600 into 1.1, basically 10% increase, which is 660. 500 into 1.2, 600. 400 into 1.25, right? Uh, 600, 500 into 1.2, right? Which is 600. And 400 into 1.25 or 500, right? So this ratio is coming to be 10 cancels, 66 is to 60 is to 50, or another 2 can cancel, 33 is to 30 is to 25. I think just need to correct some of the options. This is the correct ratio. 33 is to 30 is to 25. This should be the revised salaries. This should be the ratio of the revised income. 33 is to 30 is to 25. Just need to check the options. That is the correct ratio, right? So the point is you can work with any number of quantities all together, right? Means even if it's three quantities, you can just take multiples of 100 and start with that. Perfect. Chaliye, let's see. uh Kerry Launcher mobile app is here, in case you're not aware of it. So it's one of the many ways to connect with us, and it's having plenty of resources. It's available on both iOS as well as Android. So something that you can look out or check out, right? Will definitely give you some kind of help in your preparation. चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. Right. The ratio of male to female employees in a firm is 5 is to 4. The ratio of male to female employees is 5 to 4. फिर से हम 500 400 लेके स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं. Yes, only one ratio is given, males and females. So if this is, let's say, 500, then this is, but wait a second, look at the question. The question is a very different one. Read the question fully. 10% of males resign and 20% of females resign. Now, question is asking something very different. Which of the following could be the total number of remaining employees in the firm? Now, the language is a bit different this time. He is not asking something definite. He is asking for the possibility of something. Could be. Which of the following could be the number of employees? Now, how do I know what could be? Now, you might think like, how do I know what, how many, right? How do I know how many number of employees remain in the firm? How am I supposed to know it, or the possibility of that, right? Now, there is a smart, this is a smart question, right? This is not a regular question, and this is something that you should be aware of. This is the new thing, right? I was saying वही सेम टॉपिक हम स्कूल में कर चुके हैं, बट वही सेम टॉपिक पर जिस तरह से कैट क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछता है वो अलग होता है, right? So that is what we are looking out for, and this is what we have to learn, or we have to understand how to handle. देखिए, 5 is to 4 is the ratio. If I take, let's say this is 5k, this is, let's say, 4k, in general is the initial number of males and females, right? 10% resign or leave, right? This is being reduced. So how many resign in percentage form? 10% of males and 20% of females. What is the actual number of employees who have resigned? Out of 5k, 10% resign, which is 1/10 of 5k or 0.5k. 20% or 1/5 of 4k, right? 4k. So 20%, which is 1/5 of that. So 4k by 5 or 0.8k. Now, do you understand one thing? This 0.5k and this 0.8k is an integer, has to be an integer. It cannot be like k is 1, or for that matter 2 also, or 3 or 4. Not possible. Why? Because then these values will not be integers. So what does that tell us? Well, obviously it tells us that k has to be a multiple of some factor so that these values are not in decimals? Can I say that k needs to be a multiple of at the very least 10 over here? Because only then 0.5k and 0.8k, both of them would be integers. So now with this realization, can I say I must go back to my initial values and just define, let's say that k has to be a multiple of 10. Let's say k is 10x. In other words, just rework on this question, right? And everywhere replace your k with 10x. So the most general form in which we can define these quantities is that we need a multiple of 10 also. So in general, this could be, let's say, 50x and 40x. Now we are ready to proceed further with these values, right? Now x needs, if x is now an integer, then everything will fall in place. So now 10% of 50x, which is 5x, will be decreased, and for females 20%, which is 8x. So now the remaining number of employees after this, so 50 minus 5, which is 45x, and 40 minus 8, which is 32x. Now if you look at the total number of remaining employees, then that is coming to be 45 plus 32, which is 77x. Now do you understand that because of all this, what we got finally was that the total number of remaining employees must be a multiple of 77. How did this factor come across? Because of all the integer constraint that we were dealing with throughout the problem, right? So this is what is being tested in an exam, right? This is the kind of skills, this is the kind of uh, scenarios that you have to deal with, right? So based on a certain percentage change, the initial values need to be a multiple of a factor so that what you're dealing with still remains to be an integer, right? If that is the primary constraint, which was the logic driving this question, right? So I hope this makes sense, right? And you will learn how. So whenever you see these kind of questions, right, which have this phrase could be, ho sakta hai, right? So then you understand कि कुछ some logic is there, and one of those logics would be the integer constraint. Now I'm not saying that could be phrase हमेशा ही integer constraint से related होता है, but this is one of the many things that can be asked, right? चलिए, I hope you're practicing with me, right? Let me give you a minute to try this one. Let me pause for a minute. I hope I have set some momentum for you to try this question and give me the answer A, B, C, D. Let's see if somebody can get this. Okay, I'm waiting for a minute or so that if you can get this one. चलिए 1 मिनट इज ओवर। इस क्वेश्चन के लिए 1 मिनट ही चाहिए था, तो आप जवाब नहीं दे पाए अभी तक। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप दे नहीं सकते, आप अभी भी दे सकते हैं। आई एम स्टिल वेटिंग फॉर योर आंसर्स। द रेशो ऑफ द इनकम्स ऑफ ए एंड बी इज 5:3। एक ही रेशो है तो हम हमेशा वी कैन स्टार्ट विद नंबर्स। लेट्स से इनिशियली the incomes, the salaries of A and B are 500 and 300. Next year A gets an increment of 20%. So next year, or let's say year 1, this is 20% increase, so that's simply 600, right? 500 becomes 600, right? 20% of 500 is 100. While B's salary gets reduced by 10%. So 10% decrease would be 270, 300 minus 30, 270. The year after that, year 2, if A's salary gets reduced by 25%, 25% decrease, one fourth decrease. So 600 minus one fourth of 600 is 150. One fourth of 600 is 150. So 600 minus 150, 450. What should be the change in B's salary so that the ratio comes back to what it was 2 years ago, which was 5:3? So if this ratio has to be still 5:3, then 5 into 90 is 450. So this should be 3 into 90, which is what? 270, which is exactly what it was 1 year ago. It means there is no change required in the salary of B. Simple, right? Yes or no? So I was expecting your answers on this one. क्या हुआ? Right? Quite doable. So I think, right, the idea is that uh, in ratios and percentages, whenever one ratio is given, just start with assuming numbers and start with that, right? No variables are required here. Only when two ratios are there, two independent ratios are there, then we have to sometimes deal with variable, right? Otherwise we can just start with numbers. So this 500 and 300 could have been 5 lakh and 3 lakh, 5,000 and 3,000. It does not matter, right? चलिए करते हैं जारी। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन, right? All right. In a class, boys and girls are in the ratio 6:5. Fine. After 6 boys and 10% of the girls left, the ratio became 10:9. How many total students are in the class? Hmm. Now, this time, it is not a question, I guess, where I can just start with the numbers, because it is the initial number itself which we have to find. We know 6:5 is the ratio, but whether it was 60 and 50 students, whether it was 6 into 5 30 and 5 into 5 25 students, or what it was actually, we don't know that. That is exactly what we have to find. So this time we have to start with variable, right? We have to start with, okay, let's say that 6k and 5k is the initial number of boys and girls respectively, right? And then after that, what is the change? Boys are decreased by 6. So the number of the number of boys now is 6k minus 6, and 10% of the girls left, means 90% remain, or zero point 0.9 times 90% means 9/10. So 9/10 of the girls remain. So 9/10 of 5k, or this is 9 by 2k. So the ratio of these two is now 10:9. So वहां से हम k निकालेंगे और फिर टोटल स्टूडेंट्स निकालेंगे। टोटल स्टूडेंट्स कितने हैं हमारे? 6 and 5, total is 11k. So you can see that each of the options is a multiple of 11, right? So that is quite obvious. It has to be a multiple of 11. All the options are multiple of 11, so that is not helping us any which way. We have to solve the value of k now, right? So 6k minus 6, or 6 times k minus 1, boys to girls, 6k minus 6 upon, this is 9 by 2k. 2 I will bring on the top, 9k by 2. This ratio is what? 10 by 9. Just solve this now. That's all. ये 9 cancel हो गया. This 2 will cancel. And now I can simplify. So this is giving me that 6k minus 1, or simply 6k minus 6. And k comes over here is 5k, or simply I'm getting k to be 6. So this 11k is therefore what? 66 students. राइट, अ रेगुलर क्वेश्चन जहां पर वेरिएबल तो लेना ही पड़ेगा. सो नॉट एवरी क्वेश्चन इज अ मैजिकल क्वेश्चन वेयर यू कैन जस्ट डील डायरेक्टली डील विद नंबर्स. The way the statements are further given defines how we proceed further, right? इस बार इनिशियल ही को ही निकालना था, रेशो गिवन था और एक्चुअल वैल्यू का क्या है वो निकालना था. तो आपको 6k5 या 6x5x से स्टार्ट करना ही था, राइट? चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं. ट्राई करेंगे, ट्राई करेंगे कि नहीं? गिव मी यस और नो. अगर कोई जवाब नहीं आएगा तो मैं फिर स्टार्ट कर देता हूँ, राइट? वुड यू लाइक टू ट्राई? गिव मी यस और नो. चलिए, अगर आपका जवाब आ जाए तो प्लीज शेयर कीजिएगा. लेट्स स्टार्ट. Dhruv and Divya are two siblings. 9 years ago, their ages were in the ratio 2 is to 3. 12 years hence, their ages will be in the ratio 9 is to 10. What is the present ratio of their ages? क्वेश्चन रेशियोज का तो है ही, बट सॉल्व करने लगेंगे तो थोड़ा सा इक्वेशंस के साथ डील करना पड़ेगा. इट लुक्स क्वाइट लाइक दैट बिकॉज we are going in the past, we are going in the future, so x and y will change to x minus 9 etc. तो equations बनेंगी, right? चलिए, तो in any age problem what I always do is I always follow a simple mantra. I always take the present ages to be the variables. वो मेरा कन्वेंशन है, वो मेरे को आसान लगता है, राइट? क्योंकि आप पास्ट की एज को कुछ वेरिएबल ले लोगे फिर याद में रखना पड़ता है कि वो कितना पास्ट का था, क्या था. आज की एज को मैं वेरिएबल ले लेता हूँ. सो ध्रुव एंड दिव्या, आई टेक देयर प्रेजेंट एजेस, दिया सॉरी, आई टेक देयर प्रेजेंट एजेस टू बी एक्स एंड वाई रिस्पेक्टिवली, राइट? प्रेजेंट एजेस. And then I start with that 9 years ago. So in the past, when Dhruv was x minus 9 and Diya was y minus 9, the ratio of their ages was 2 is to 3. Simplify, get one equation. So cross multiply 3x minus 27, 3 into x minus 9 equals 2y, 2 times of y minus 9. So equals 2y minus 18. So from here we're getting that 2y minus 3x, sorry, आसान यही रहेगा. एक सेकेंड. 3x minus 2y we are getting to be equal to 9. First equation 3x minus 2y is 27 minus 18, 9. First equation. And in the future, 12 years hence, so x plus 12 over y plus 12, their ages will be in the ratio 9 is to 10. So another equation we're getting 10x plus 120 is 9y plus 108, right? So therefore we are getting 9y minus 10x to be equal to 12. Second equation. ठीक है भाई, सॉल्व कर लो. मुझे दिख रहा है कि दिस इज 10x, दिस इज 3x, दिस इज 2y, दिस इज 9y. चलिए ठीक है, y को एलिमिनेट कर लेते हैं. y को एलिमिनेट करने के लिए 2 and 9, सो क्रॉस मल्टीप्लाई करेंगे, इसको इंटू 9 करेंगे, इसको इंटू 2 करेंगे. So we get 3 into 9, यहाँ पर लिख रहा हूँ 27x minus 18y will be 81. And this will be 9 to, into 2, 18, 18y. The whole point was to eliminate. We have eliminated y. Minus 20x is 24. And we'll add so that our y will get cancelled. And we're getting 7x to be 105. X is coming to be 15. 105 is 15 into 7. X is coming to be 15. What is the present ratio of their ages? X और y निकालना है, x is to y निकालना है. x 15 आ गया है, y को x को x equal to 15 को you can put it back in the first equation. So you will get 2y is 3x minus 9. So 2y is 3 into x. 15 is a 45 minus 9 which is 36. So we are getting y to be 18. So the ratio of their ages, present ratio of their ages is 5 is to 6, 15 and 18. Right, so just right, once we analyze the ratio, it gave us equations to deal with, right? Simple linear equations to solve and get the values. So I've set up the right mood for this whole module. We're going to have plenty of sessions, right? We have just started, and we're going to amp up our level as we move up in the next sessions, right? So we'll meet quite soon again, right? I would suggest keep up your practice, right? Keep on giving your mocks, sectional tests, right? Keep practicing from the previous year questions, right? And keep practicing with me, right? So with this mood and agenda of being exposed to the techniques that are required to crack the exam, right? We'll be meeting again quite soon. Till then, thank you so much. Thank you. I'll see you again. All the best.